Hi class. So I hope now everybody is clear about the course content. Basically, what is the objective of this course and what we are going to study in 5 different modules. So with this, now we can start with our first module, that is Introduction to Human Resource Management. Yeah. So this is just one small glimpse where it says that everyone is concerned about talent, which is true. In today's time, all of us understand that without talented employees, it's not possible to prosper in the business, right? Of course, some of you might say that it's the age of technology with AI, with chat GPT, and so many other platforms and tools, which are automated in nature. Of course, it's a very debatable topic that whether we will be needing HR in the future or not, or everything will be done automatically. But I don't think that it's going to replace HR. It's practically not possible. So that's why the need for the talented employees is always going to remain. Every organization is going to make sure that they have employees who will help them to achieve the competitive advantage in the market, because if your competitors have talented employees and if you do not have talented employees, then it will be very difficult to beat the competition. So that's why there are different ways in which you can easily get people or maybe poach employees from your competitive ones. So when we discuss those chapters, we will be discussing this thing in detail. But right now the point to understand is everyone is concerned about the talent. So with this note, let us begin our first module, Introduction to Human Resource Management. And I would like to begin this module with a small case, that is an introductory case, to help you understand this subject better as we are beginning with our first chapter. So here is the opening case. I'm going to read it and I would request you to please pay attention. So Mr. Bhatt, who is an HR manager of IVS group of companies, approached the CEO on 30th March 2007 and apprised him of the absence of Mr. Ajay Vaidya, who is assistant accountant in the corporate finance department, for the past 1 month, and requested him to approve the show cause notice to be saved to Mr. Ajay as per the labor laws in force. The CEO told Mr. Bhatt, when Mr. Ajay has been absent for the last 1 month, your duty is to go to Mr. Ajay's house, find out the reason and solve the problem of Mr. Ajay. And not just to report the absence to me, go immediately to Mr. Ajay's house, find the reason and report it to me before 5 p.m. today. Now, as you can see, before we move to the next slide, I would just like to discuss this thing. See, Mr. Bhatt, he's the HR manager of this big company, which is IVS group of companies. And he is approaching the CEO because, being an HR manager, if any major decision has to be taken, then obviously you need permission from the top management. So he is making the CEO aware about the situation that Mr. Ajay Vaidya is absent. He is the assistant accountant and he is absent in the department since last 1 month. And now, being an HR manager, he would like to send a show cause notice to Mr. Ajay as per the law, labor laws in force, because it's not possible that without informing the top management you go on leave and then you expect them that your job is secured. I mean, ideally that's not the situation, it's not possible. So he is right, Mr. Bhatt is right, he is acting as a good HR manager. Now what is CEO doing? CEO is telling Mr. Bhatt that when Mr. Ajay has been absent for the last 1 month, it was your duty to find out the reason, rather than just sending a show cause notice straight away after 1 month. He could have made an effort to find out somehow, maybe by visiting his home or maybe by contacting his family if Mr. Ajay was not in contact, to try and understand what is the situation and try and solve the problem, because you are the HR manager, you are heading HR, so it's your duty to ensure that if any employee is facing any kind of problem, then at least you are available or you can help them in any way you want. So that's why CEO is giving this kind of suggestion to Mr. Butt to ensure that he is fine, and if there is any way they can help as an organization, then they would like to help. And not just to report the absence, but to immediately take the action, so go to Mr. Ajay's house and report it, and he's requesting, he's telling him to inform before 5 p.m. about what is happening. So he has taken this decision that this is how they should be finding out more about why Mr. Ajay is absent. Continuing with the case, Mr. Bhatt, he immediately left from Mr. Ajay's house and learned from Mr. Ajay's wife that Mr. Ajay has been in distress as he has been trying to mobilize rupees 1 lakh for the surgery of his sick wife in a reputed hospital in Chennai. So now this is the entire situation. See, it's right in front of us. Mr. Ajay's wife is informing him that he is under so much stress because he need to gather a huge amount of rupees 1 lakh. Now 1 lakh might not seem to be a big amount, but he is an assistant accountant. Imagine what would his salary be, his monthly salary be, and out of that salary he will also have to run the household, right? Spend for the household expenses and other expenses. How much would he be able to save, and from his saving how much immediately he will be able to gather this big amount for a surgery, which is unexpected. So Mr. Bhatt could meet Mr. Ajay around 3 p.m. and both of them then met the CEO. Both of them apprised the CEO the reason for the absence and distress of Mr. Ajay. The CEO immediately contacted the hospital and informed them that the company will pay rupees 1 lakh tomorrow, and requested the doctor to conduct the surgery for Ajay's wife tomorrow itself. So nice of him, right? Understand the whole situation. See, if CEO had not asked Mr. Bhatt to visit Mr. Ajay's house and find out the reason, they would have not solved this issue. Or if Mr. Ajay would have just shared this with the organization, his problem, then he might have found the solution earlier, right? So anyway, the whole situation was out of control, but just after the CEO asked Mr. Bhatt to visit him and find out the reason, the company is ready to pay the amount for the surgery. Imagine, this is one small employee in a big company. He is just an assistant accountant, but it is going to make a big difference for the reputation of the company also. And it is so nice to have such leaders, such CEO who treat you like a human being and understand the seriousness of a situation, that for you and your family this is so much important, right? So they are requesting the doctor to not to delay and just go ahead with the surgery of Ajay's wife tomorrow itself. What happens next? So the CEO ordered Mr. Bhatt to arrange to issue a check for rupees 1 lakh in favor of the hospital, and also pay rupees 10,000 in cash to Mr. Ajay to meet incidental expenses as a grant, right? Because he did not work for the whole month, so you cannot expect him to receive his salary because he did not inform the company, just remained absent. And anyway, no organization will give you money even if you take like leave for 1 month, right? If it's like few days, it's okay, but for whole month it's not possible. So that's why he was anyway lacking the money, he did not have. But so just to meet those incidental expenses, the company also paid him 10,000 rupees in cash. Mr. Ajay as well as Mr. Bhatt, they were surprised at the decision of the CEO. Mr. Ajay became emotional and touched the feet of the CEO. So nice. See, now he is feeling that he is a small employee in the company at a very small position, but he is taken care by the organization. And any individual, any employee would love to work in such kind of environment where even little problems are understood by your team members, by the leaders, and you receive some kind of help. The CEO told Mr. Bhatt, problems of our employees are the company's problems. We treat the employees as human beings and members of the company's family, right? They have such good values. So this is what we say, good values. So every organization, they have some values, which they want to stick to, which they want to live by, and it is seen in their actions. It is not that we are going to create a document, we will make a big document, a policy, and then we just feel that, okay, yeah, this is what we believe in. So that doesn't work. If you believe in something, then you have to live by it. So how do you do that? This is how you do that. If the CEO is saying, is sharing this big statement that the problems of our employees are the company's problems, and we treat the employees as human beings and members of the company's family, and what he did right now, right, it's proving that, yeah, whatever the company's values are and whatever belief you are having, you are actually living by that. So it's great, right, to be part of such kind of organization. This piece of news spread in the entire company with no time, and the employees felt highly secure. The productivity level increased by 100% in the next quarter itself and sustained over the years to come. See, one little act is going to get you big results. That's how it works, right? The news just spread it among the employees, all the employees in the company, and everybody felt secure that tomorrow, if there is an emergency and if something happens, we have somebody, who's going to keep us safe. And this one thing led to the productivity level increase by 100% in the next quarter itself. That means company could see huge profits coming, right, by this little act of humanity, which is very important. So when we are talking about the role of HR in the organization, HR can play this role. Earlier there was nothing like HR department in the companies, right? It was just the personnel management in the organization, wherein their only role was to maintain the records. For example, maintain the register, wherein you just check the in and out times, you see how many employees are absent, or you just work towards salary, calculating the salary, giving the salaries, and that's it. All the record making things, right? So a register was maintained, and basically all the information of the employees was maintained. But now the time has changed. Now every organization has a full-fledged HR department whose job is to not only maintain the records, but apart from that, look after the other functional areas, like you look after the health also, you look after the motivation also, you look after maintaining good relations also, you look after engaging the employees also, you look after giving them some kind of benefits also. So everything is taken care of by a specialized department, which is called HR department, because everybody understands that in today's time, if you treat your employees well, they are going to treat you well, as in they are going to work hard, and ultimately you as an organization, you are going to reap the benefits. So that's why it's very important. I hope this little introductory case was helpful to you to understand the importance of HR, and with this we will just continue with the introduction part. So now when I'm talking about what is HRM, I'm just going to read what is there on the slide. So human resource is a group of individuals that forms the workforce of an organization. It is responsible for executing various operations and functions of the organization. So basically, human resource is a group of individuals that forms the entire workforce of an organization. Second point, inefficient management of human resource may create a number of difficulties for an organization, like employee dissatisfaction, unclear organizational goals and objectives. So inefficient management, then if your management is not efficient, then you will face so many difficulties, like your employees are dissatisfied. If your employees are dissatisfied, they would just leave the organization and move to the other place where they are respected and treated well, right? Or if your organization goals are not clear, then your employees also doesn't know what are they working towards. So that's why it is important to have a very clear management in HR can be helpful in this. Human resource management, point number 3, can be defined as a comprehensive process that involves acquiring, recruiting, and maintaining an efficient pool of employees in organization. It focuses on employee issues related to recruitment, selection, compensation, benefits, training, and development. So this is how it does. Now we are going to discuss all these things very much in detail because we will be coming to the objectives and functions of HRM. So each and every point that we see over here, the different functions that we will be discussing in detail. Moving ahead. Now what is the HRM? The definition is here. Please try and remember this thing, and if you understand this, it is very much in detail. It will help you clear the meaning of HRM. So what is HRM? Human resource management is the planning, organizing, directing, and controlling of the procurement, development, compensation, integration, maintenance, and separation of HR to the end that individual, organizational, and social objectives are accomplished. So I'm going to divide this definition into 3 parts. First thing, HRM is the planning, organizing, directing, and controlling. These are the basic functions, right, of management. You must have learned this in principles of management. So HRM is also all about planning, organizing, directing, and controlling. Of what? So of procurement. Procuring means hiring people. Development, developing them. Compensating them. Integrating them. Maintaining and separation of HR. So all these functions, see, right from the beginning, it is like a cycle when a person, an employee enters the organization till the time an employee leaves the organization. So procurement, development, compensation, integration, maintenance, and separation of HR, so that your individual goals, your organizational goals, and your social goals are accomplished. Right? So there are 3 different parts in this definition, and each of them are working towards something. So I hope it was easy to understand what is HRM. Once again, I'm going to read it for you. Human resource management is the planning, organizing, directing, and controlling of the procurement, development, compensation, integration, maintenance, and separation of HR to the end so that individual, organizational, and social objectives are accomplished. Now, moving ahead, you would like to know, I am sure, about the evolution of HRM. How did it evolve? What happened? How did it evolve? So when we are talking about the evolution of HRM, while the topic of HRM is relatively new, the history of managing people in the organizations, especially in state administration, is fairly ancient. It's very old, right? HR department is new. The way new processes are building up is new, but the history of managing people in the organization, especially in state administration, is ancient. It's a little old. So after the industrial revolution that began in the 19th century, there was a significant focus on optimizing the use of the labor force in industrial organizations, right? So we are talking about industrial revolution that began in 19th century. So what happened was, that was the time where there was focus on optimizing the use of labor force in industrial organization. Labor force is there, now you need to optimize. Subsequently, systematic methods for managing people, first for the labor force and later for managing personnel, began to be implemented, and literature documenting these methods began to appear. So now, see, if you remember, I don't know, I'm sure you must have read in Principles of Management during your semester 1. So that was the time, like we are talking about the industrial era, we are talking about the First World War, we are talking about the Second World War, and then industrial revolution that began in the 19th century. So the whole thing. So what was happening was, during these world wars, there was a need of more ammunitions, there was the need of more let's say things to fight, there was a need of more machineries, so a lot of things were needed on large scale because everything was put to use. So during the world war, since there was more demand, production was more, and because just to fulfill the demand, to produce more, small factories started building up. Like you needed cobblers, to mend new shoes. You wanted somebody to stitch uniforms, like so different factories were there which were put to use, because there was a huge demand that arose during the world wars. So to fulfill those demands, small factories started building up. Now we cannot say that everything, the entire setup was very much organized. It was all unorganized. You were hiring people, they were just coming, going, and a lot of exploitation was taking place. So then there was a need, that this thing should be taken care of. Like somebody felt that, yeah, there has to be proper register that should be maintained to maintain the records of the employees who are working. We need to know when are they coming, when are they going, whether they are absent, and then whatever has to be paid, you have to ensure that you're paying everybody regularly. And so everything, there was a need to maintain some kind of records. And apart from that, the production also, there were a lot of exploitation was going on, that you are asking employees, not employees, but at that time workers were there. So you're asking workers to work overtime, and then you're not paying them well, and then nobody is taking care of their health and safety. If they're working in a very bad condition, then also, you are not worried about giving them good mask, or taking care of the hygiene. You're not ensuring that the environment is properly ventilated, there is enough water facilities, like that, so forth. So then that was the time, the World War time. After that, the Industrial Revolution time was the time wherein more and more people started working. And because more and more people started working, there was a need of having some formalized setup, for the betterment of the employees. So here you can see, this you will be able to read in your book, and these are the names which are familiar to you, I'm sure, because the subject, this you must have studied in your Principles of Management subject. So beginning Industrial Revolution era, 19th century. After that, trade union movement era, close to the 19th century, because trade unions started forming. They realized that, okay, we are in order to encounter the exploitation that is happening, group of people should come together. It should be formed, the union should be formed, and then somebody will listen to your voice. You started fighting for better wages, so for the amount of work that you were doing. So then trade union movement era also started close to the 19th century. Then came the social responsibility era in the beginning of 20th century. Then scientific management era, 1900 to 1920. Then human relation era, 30 to 50. Then behavioral science, 50 to 60. And then there was something called systems and contingency approach, 60. And then human resource management era from 1980. So if you just read all these things in detail, then you will see, like scientific management era, human relation era. This was the time during the World War I and II, wherein during this time, with different principles of management. You must have studied scientific principles of management by Frederick Taylor, and all those, because then they started making the factory setup more formalized. Everything was a little bit more organized, and that's how things became more systematic. So then there was something called personal management which came into the picture, because it was about managing the personnel, managing the people. And later, very very, around 1990s, 2000, then started, the human resource management era started picking up. Earlier it was just personal management, because you're just managing the people. But then the factories, the employers started treating employees as human resource. They are not just the people who are working, but they are the resources, and they should be treated well, if you want to get the benefits out of them. So then came the other setup. So now what we should be discussing is, what is the difference between human resource management and personal management? What was earlier during 50s, 60s, what was there? And later, what came? What is human resource management? So next what we are going to discuss is the difference between HRM and personal management. Okay, some points are given over here. I'm quickly going to read these points so that you understand. Now, first point. See, First, I will read HRM and then we will see what PM was. HRM is proactive in nature. It is not only concerned with the present organizational conditions but foresees future necessities and then acts appropriately. Right? I told you that the employer started employees as the resources. So if you're treating somebody as a resource, then you have to be proactive in nature. You should always think, that they might need better working conditions. They might need um, some leave, to fulfill or balance their family requirements also. So that means it was proactive in nature. Whereas if you just look at the PM, it was reactive in nature. It was only about ensuring that whatever labor management relations were, whether they were strained or whether they were normal, they were taken care of. But people were taking action only after something happened. So it was quite reactive in nature, not like HRM, which was proactive in nature. Then second thing, HRM was considered as a resource-centered activity, because it was focusing more on the managerial aspects. When we are talking about managerial aspects, it is more about delegating the responsibility to line authorities and management development. So everything was much more formalized when HR started building up. Everybody realized that there has to be proper delegation that is taking place. There has to be line workers, there has to be staff workers. Everybody should be very much clear about their roles which they have to play, and delegating the responsibility is very necessary in the organization. So that's why it was considered as a resource centered activity. Whereas if you just look at the PM, it was basically employee centered, which only aimed at hiring people and training people and compensating and maintaining the records, as I told you earlier. Right. Then HRM emphasized more on the open-ended contracts, like modifying depending upon the demands of the business. Right? Because we know that because of the competition, because of the global changes happening, everything, you need to have the open-ended contracts. Anytime you might, the management needs to assume the responsibility to motivate the people, to act as per the changing demands. Whereas in PM, everything was fixed, everything was defined. Rules are defined, timing is defined, procedure is defined, contracts are defined, and all you have to do is, like, there is a fixed relationship between the management and the workforce. And for example, contracts are fixed, collective bargaining might happen. But whereas HRM, the approach is altogether different, the thought process is different. People are open and ready to accept the changes which are taking place. HRM, on the other hand, if you see, it was based on the principle that better performance itself is a cause of job satisfaction and morale. So if you perform well, then it is going to definitely bring some kind of satisfaction, and your morale will also be high. On the other hand, personal management considers job satisfaction and morale as a source of better performance. So it works on the foundation that the contented worker is a productive worker, whereas it was different on the other side. HRM also seeks to develop the competencies of the employees on a sustained basis. Skill formation and development are recognized as the main characteristics of HRM. Why do you think the employees were given so much of importance? Because earlier you were hiring employee who possess certain skills, right? It was because the need, the factory setup and all that we are discussing, like certain skills were needed to perform the job. Whereas after HRM started gaining some prominence in the business, then it was more about training and development. Even if you had some skills, you still need to be trained, to ensure that you are learning more skills, better skills, because you can't keep on hiring employees, to fulfill your requirement. But you also need employees who possess some kind of learning abilities, because hiring cost is much higher, maintaining cost is much higher. Like retention is much, it's not easy task to retain the employees. Even exiting is costly. So to overcome all these things, you need employees who possess some kind of skills, or you can easily develop the competencies in order to have a sustained business. PM is a regular status quo based administrative function. So employees get uniform rewards based on job evaluation. So in this, I mean, when as we move ahead, we are also going to learn this chapter as a compensation. So you will see that there is something called job evaluation and job worth, wherein you are determining the salary or wages to be offered to the employees depending upon what is the worth of the job. But whereas now it's not like that, even the organization prefers to be flexible depending upon what kind of skills and competencies you are possessing, and they don't mind paying you more to ensure that you you can work with them on long term basis. So it's necessary. Last point. So HRM emphasizes autonomous work groups, challenging jobs and creativity for motivating the people, and the management assumes the responsibility to motivate the employees and continuously encourage the performance based on unity of goals. So it's not just that an individual performance is always encouraged. Nowadays this is a time for working in a team, so it's more encouragement towards to working with the team, ensuring that whatever responsibilities you are taking, you are continuously fulfilling them, and whatever performance is there, a company or management is going to encourage you to ensure that you are working together. Whereas when we are talking about personal management, they emphasized mainly on the monetary rewards and conventional job designs like job simplification and rotation to encourage people to improve their performance. So it worked like little different. But as you can see the difference, HRM is much more formalized. It is a very formalized structure. There is much open-minded. There is like the employers also believe in open door policy, and employees have a lot of flexibility to work with, and that's how it started gaining prominence after 2000. And now right, I mean, some of you might be working also in the organization. You understand that what is the importance of HR department in any company. So even like, let's say I was telling you that even if you do not opt for a job, right, even if you don't want to work in corporates, but if you're planning to have your own business, still you will have to ensure that there is a formalized HR department, and there is somebody looking after the employees needs, requirements, motivation, development of the skills, because all these things are very important. So for you, understanding what are the functions of HRM, what role you can play, what difference you can bring in the workplace, because we just saw the case that how the decision of a CEO of just helping an employee, a small accounting assistant, by rupees 1 lakh, what result did it bring in the organization? The productivity increased by 100%, and each and every employee feels secured. So you as a CEO of the company or as an owner of the business, you also need to ensure that you're respecting the employees that who's working with you, and ensuring that you're giving them good returns that is needed to keep them motivated and engaged. Okay. I hope no doubts. Moving ahead, so we are just going to quickly see what are the objectives of HRM. So the objectives are mainly divided into 4 categories. So you can just go through these points in your textbook. First one is societal objectives, something that you are working towards, the social objectives that you have. Organizational objectives, because your vision and mission will be very clear. So you will be working towards achievement of your organizational objectives. Some functional objectives also, because there are a lot of functional areas of the business that you would like to address, where HRM is going to play an important role, and some personal objectives. So personal objectives for the individuals also. As in, see, nowadays the employers also, they are also paying much more attention to the career of the employees. It's not that they are only selfish, that they are working towards the achievement of their own goals, organizational goals, but they also want to ensure that whatever your individual goals are, they are aligned with the organizational goals. Because if you wish to, or if you aspire to grow your career in some other industry, in different from what you are working now, then you are not going to dedicatedly work in the organization, and ultimately you are going to leave. So the organization also doesn't want that. They want to work with you, they want to sit with you and find out what are your career goals, and want to help you achieve those career goals, just to ensure that organizational goals and your personal goals are aligned. So that's how personal objectives are also there, which HRM is working towards. So certain points, let's read some points so that you can understand it better. See, the main goal of HRM is to manage the workers' work life from their recruitment to their departure, while assuring their optimal cooperation in attaining the organizational goals and objectives. Second thing, to serve as an intermediary between senior management and the personnel. So another objective of HRM is HRM acts as an intermediary between senior management and personnel. It's not possible for the senior management, to get in touch with each and every employee and share their expectations and understand the other party's expectations. So that's why HRM, the HR department, or the HR personnel responsible HR people, they act as an intermediary between both the parties. The next point is point number 3, to effectively manage and sustain a sufficient workforce supply, so guaranteeing the efficient operation of the organization. The HRM also wants to ensure that the workforce supply is efficiently managed. How is it possible that you are in need of 100 employees all the time, and suddenly 5 of them or 10 of them are resigning, and then you can't manage the shortfall and your production is on halt and everything is getting disturbed? That's practically not possible. That's why the role of the HR department is to ensure that there is a sufficient number of workforce all the time, and whenever they see any kind of contingency arising, then they have the resources enough to fulfill those positions, so that your operations in the business, they are not getting disturbed. They just continuously you can deal with it. Then to provide instructional sessions, like some kind of training, that is also the objective of HRM. Then to develop employee benefit programs which are aimed at enhancing staff motivation. It is very much essential to keep your employees motivated all the time, because if they are not, then their productivity will get affected. So that's why it is the role of HRM, the department, to ensure that they are developing different employee benefit programs. They are offering enough benefits to the employees, monetary and non-monetary benefits, so that your staff is motivated. Then to guarantee and improve the quality of one's professional and personal life is another objective of HRM. You have to ensure that you're improving the quality of the professional and personal life. To promote and maintain ethical principles and conduct among the personnel, another objective. You want to ensure, you want to promote, and you want to maintain the ethical principles, and you want to which are necessary among the personnel. So all these things are possible when there is a formalized HR department in the organization. So these are objectives. Apart from this, if you refer your book or you refer any other reference book, different objectives will be there, but more points will be there, so you can understand why. By now it must be clear that why HRM is needed, the HR department is needed in the organization, and what is the role of HR in the organization. So as we are discussing HR objectives, I would like to take you through the HR objectives of Tata Group. Like what do they aspire? How do they treat their employees? So see, Tata company shall provide equal opportunities to all its employees. So this is mentioned in their policies. Now, as I told you that so many organizations formed good documents, and it just remains lying on the table. But it doesn't work like that. You have to live by whatever rules that you make, right? So if you see these objectives on the website of Tata Group, that means you can also expect that this is how they must be treating their employees. Right? So they shall provide equal opportunities to all its employees. Equal opportunities, that means any kind of job opening is arising, right? You are trying to avoid red tapeism, and you are trying to ensure that you give opportunities to people, and the skilled employee, the right employee, is chosen. So that's how they believe in. They shall promote diversity and equality in the workplace. So diversity also, again, if you just open one of the websites of Tata, like let's say any the Tata consultancy or something like that, you just open the website and see. Whenever they are recruiting people, any kind of openings are there, they will be inviting applications from people across the world. They will not restrict it only to the Indians or only to a particular region, but they are very much open, and in fact they are taking pride in it. If you just see, like let's say TCS, if you open the website, you can just find out how they are promoting inclusion and diversity among their workforce. And in fact you can just see some clips also, wherein people are taking pride as to be working in this company called Tata, because they are promoting diversity. Also, employees shall be treated with dignity, very important, right? You have to treat your employees, whatever designation they belong to, with dignity, because that will motivate them, keep their morale high. Also, you need to maintain a work environment which is free of all forms of harassment, so they believe in that. They also respect for the right to privacy and right to be heard, right? This is what every employee demands, right to privacy and right to be heard, so they respect that. And there is equal opportunity to all the eligible, and decisions are based on merit. So these are the HR objectives of Tata Group. These are not the company objectives specifically I mentioned it, they are the HR objectives. That means for employees, they believe that this should be offered. Now this is there. Now see, if I ask you which company you want to work for, then some of you might say Tata Group. So it is great to actually talk to a somebody who's worked for Tata, or talk to an insider, talk to an alumni, to understand actually what kind of HR is in Tata. Is it a great company to work for? So you can find it for yourself. So this is how the objectives of HRM works. Now we are just quickly going to see the structure of the HR department. Again, I am sure that in your subject principles of management you have understood what are the different structures and hierarchies. So here the HR department, as you can see, right, there is personal transaction management, there is staffing management, organizational development. OD is a new concept nowadays, which is which is a specialized concept. Actually, it's talking about organizational development. Every organization will not have this department with them, like a sub department in HR, but people who are trying to incorporate the major changes in terms of their structure, in terms of their goals, in terms of their production. Maybe they want to go for restructuring, or maybe they want to go for expansion. Then there is something called organizational development that comes into the picture, which is again performed by a very specialized practitioner. We call them OD practitioners. So anyway, it's still part of HR. Then there is another sub department, ethics and labor. There is training and development. So what we are seeing over here, these are the subdivisions under the HR department. So there will be somebody working only for the compensation part, salary and compensation. There will be somebody only working for the ethics part. There will be somebody only working towards the training and development function. There will be somebody who's only working towards employee engagement. There will be somebody who's only working towards staffing management. So likewise, there will be subdivisions. If you see big organizations, right, large firms, so they will have subdivisions. Small firms will only have a couple of responsible staff under HR department who will be performing all these functions. So this is how the structure of HR department works. Yeah, next one is talking about the scope of HRM. So what does HRM does, right? What kind of functions? So next topic actually is functions of HRM, in which we will see all these things in detail, but just giving you the quick overview. Scope of HRM. So basically they try and cover three different aspects. One is personal or labor aspect, second one is welfare, and third one is IR. So the personal aspect, if we see, it's related to individual employees. So here it's about planning, then recruiting, selection, placement, transfer, promotion, training and development of the employees, layoffs, retrenchment, remuneration, incentives, and productivity. Right, this is the labor aspect. So each and every individual which will be going through this, that is the labor aspect, one thing. Second one is about the welfare. You have to look after the welfare of the employees. It's not that you just recruit somebody and then don't take care of them, right? So what about the welfare? So some companies offer housing facilities, maybe you offer some transport facilities, medical assistance, canteen, restrooms, health and safety, education. Again, these are the things which are needed. These are the basic requirements of an employee. So that is welfare aspect, and third one is IR aspect. So the industrial relation is about maintaining good relations between management, that is your trade unions, and management and the employees. So here we will see collective bargaining, grievance and disciplinary actions, settlement of disputes, and all these aspects. Okay? So this is how the scope of HRM. Now our entire subject is divided into the chapters which are divided in the course. They will cover all these aspects. So that's how the scope of HRM is. It is going to cover everything. So this is about the scope. Now, as I said that we will be discussing the functions of HRM. So in functions, I will be taking you through some of these aspects in detail, and that will form the part of the syllabus. Let's move on to the functions of HRM.